Welcome back. Now that we've covered all of the resources that are available to you, both free and paid, let's talk about what that's going to look like when you start putting it all together. The first thing that we're going to talk about is module structure. How will you organize your class? Well, in D2L, we don't have a lot of options. We have modules, and modules are self-contained learning units. And most of the time we see a weekly module structure because regardless of how you are organizing your course content, your student learner is approaching your content by week. For example, the student will sit down on Sunday or Monday and plan out their week. What is due this week? What do they have to do, watch, read? What activities do they have to complete? How should they allocate their time? This kind of weekly module structure really helps enforce that student self-direction and student persistence throughout your course. How best can you support your learner? What we've done with our course templates is broken the course information into modules. Now, like I said before, modules are comparative to weeks, but we use the term module so that we can be a little bit flexible. You, as the instructor, get to determine when your week begins and when it ends. So you may not observe a traditional week. For example, in some of my courses, my course week begins on Tuesday. The reason for that is I want to give students the entire weekend plus a business day to complete their work. That way they feel like they can reach out for support. A lot of times support is limited on Sunday nights. So I'm going to give my students an extra day on Monday to feel like they are better supported. That's completely optional, and those are instructor-specific decisions that you must make for your students in your class. But whatever it is that you do, make sure that your modules respect that self-contained learning unit structure. And so what I mean by that is the module should be comprised of the following elements. First, you need to have some module objectives. What are your goals for that module and how do they connect to your course's goals? You need to articulate that connection. We'll talk a little bit about course narrative later on in this resource guide, but just know that here we would like to see some module level objectives and know that those aren't always available for you. Those are things that you may have to create yourself. We also want to have some sort of learning guide. How should students navigate or maneuver through this particular module? This is going to be hugely important as we move on to your subject matter content delivery. In the traditional classroom, you may come in and you may deliver a lecture, you may facilitate a class assignment or a class activity, you may break your course into groups. How are you going to negotiate or navigate that same situation in the online learning environment? The biggest thing to remember here is to not deduct that experience from the online learning environment. Instead, we need to talk about and focus on what you as the instructor and as the student matter or as the subject matter expert can truly bring to the course. What is your expertise? How have you found or situated the content that you are going over, whether it's a book chapter, a website, a journal article, or whatever? How have you found that you have either navigated, integrated, or applied that in the real world? Because the students are always wanting to see that real world applicability. Why does this matter? Why should I care? And your course narrative through either your module descriptions or through your content delivery is going to help articulate and reinforce that real world applicability. Then we move on to how we're going to assess student mastery of the content that we've just presented to them. Oftentimes it's going to be through a learning activity. These could be high stakes or low stakes activities, and often we recommend a combination of the two. You need to make sure that you are cognizant of how much scaffolding that you're providing to the student. Make sure that the student is expounding all of their cognitive resources on completing the assignment and demonstrating that content mastery, and not figuring out how to work a software program or how to find a particular resource. Have those things in place within that particular learning unit. So your module really could act independently within your course. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And just like you help students navigate writing an essay or composing a written assignment, you need those transitionary pieces. So how can they transition or move from one learning unit to the next? All of those elements should be a part of a good module.